All right. Well, welcome back to our series. It's all around, all around. You can tell that I've been diving in. I'm leaving that in here. It's all about billing and insurance and hanging out with Jeremy Zug, getting some great advice. In the very first episode, we talked all about the biggest myths in insurance. We then went into insurance terms you have to know. Last time we talked about fraud, audits, and not screwing over your business. And today it's all about that tech in billing to save time and money. So we're all about that tech. Jeremy, how you doing today?
Just fine, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing well. Got my cup of coffee. I'm ready to roll.
All right. All right. Let's
Kids
get
got off to school in a very smooth way.
very
Uh, yeah. So cool. So where do we start in regards to tech in billing? There's a lot of different tech things that'll save time and money. Like, where do we start?
totally. I think the biggest place to start is from a billing perspective is an electronic health record system, right? Or EHR system. And we can talk about, HIPAA compliant phone, HIPAA compliant email and messaging and all that stuff. But I think that if you're going to go into private practice, you're going to take insurance, you're going to do billing, it is imperative that you have a good electronic health record system, right? So that would be like a therapy notes, right? Where you
I
can,
want to say it's a sponsor, but honestly, like the more I learn about them, which I have been over the last few years, it's the only one that I feel like I can stand behind to recommend.
yeah, I totally agree. And from a billing perspective, with insurance, I think it's fundamentally the best. And I've run into people that use, a variety of electronic health records, and honestly, they each have their pros and cons. But if you're going to bill insurance, Therapy Notes is definitely the one you should go with. But an electronic health record system, what should you look for? Well, you should look for the ability to submit claims electronically. The difference between an electronically submitted claim and a paper submitted claim in terms of reimbursement is about 2 weeks. So an electronic claim tends to get reimbursed within 10 to 15 business days, whereas a paper claim is processed anywhere between 20 and 35 days. So if just from a cash flow perspective, that's very important. You want an electronic health record system that can manage most of the aspects of your business, from claim submission, payment posting, denial and rejection follow-up, which we'll get to in the next webinar, or any of those other variables, as well as clinical documentation. I don't have access to that in Therapy Notes because I'm a biller and I shouldn't have access to it, but having clear treatment records is also, from a compliance perspective, very, very important. So finding an electronic health record system that matches the way you think, matches the way your practice runs is very important, and obviously matches your budget, right? You could spend a lot of money on an electronic health record system, for sure.
Awesome. So get an EHR that's solid. What else?
So I think the next part of the tech side of billing is to find out which insurance companies you have that operate off of an electronic portal, right? Or getting access to a portal that has composite records. So let me dive into that a little bit. An example of what I'm talking about would be a company called Availity, which is a confusing name, or another one is called Navinet. These are companies that have agreements with insurance companies where they house eligibility data, claim status, inquiry data, and you can get a variety of information out of those portals, right? So let me give you an example. So in previous podcasts, we talk about verification of benefits, we talk about denials. So calling an insurance company, and Joe, you know this from experience, but calling an insurance company can feel like really demoralizing and take a substantial amount of time versus going to an online website and typing in your patient's information and the date they were seen and pulling up their claim information, right? Whether it was denied or rejected or what have you. That becomes infinitely faster from an administrative perspective and from just a time perspective, right? You could spend 40 minutes on the phone or 2 minutes looking up this stuff. So that technological aspect is very important. So finding an Availity, finding a Navinet, finding a web dentist or a portal that your insurances use to manage your claim data or your provider data is very important.
And we'll get links to all that in the show notes for you guys too.
Totally. The next piece, if you're gonna, let's back up for a minute. Let's say you're not credentialed yet, you're not in network. There are 3 or 4 portals that you're gonna need access to right off the bat. So the first one, and again, we'll link this, but that's CAQH. It's a nonprofit organization that houses provider data so that they can get in network with insurances faster, right? So CAQH is a necessary technology tool that you can sign up on your computer to get access to those insurance panels. That's the first one. The second one is, let's say that you are listening to this and let's say you're a grad student, right? And you're not yet a provider. You need a login and a username to N as in Nancy, PPES to get your NPI, right? Which is your National Provider Identifier. That number, every therapist has one, but you need to sign up for that and know your login. And especially if you're a social worker going to take Medicare, because that will be the same login that you use. And again, all the acronyms are a little confusing, and we'll probably do a blog post all about acronyms or something. For PCOS, which is the Medicare credentialing system.
Is that where you apply for your NPI 2 if you're doing a group practice also?
NPPES is where you also apply for your type 2 NPI. That's right.
Awesome.
Yep. So should we explain perhaps what NPI 1 and 2 is?
I think let's save that for the webinar. I think that people can just Google it for now. Let's stick with just kind of the billing stuff.
Yeah. And then
if we go into group practice, that's a whole nother series.
It's a whole other shtick. Yeah, that's right. It gets a little bit more in depth from that perspective. But right off the bat, get an EHR system, get information or login information for Availity or Navinet or the insurances that you're in network with, and keep your login information somewhere secure. Joe, do you have any tools for how to manage?
I love LastPass. Oh my gosh. So LastPass is free up to a certain level. And then like I ended up having way too many passwords in it. So I had to do the like $20 a year or something like that. But every one of my passwords, I just stomp on the keyboard with my fingers, not with my foot, and then hit a bunch of numbers and then do some random, like it's so random, or they do kind of random ones. And then you can share that password with other people without them seeing it. So they can get access without seeing the actual password. So, I have a huge virtual assistant team, and I'm not going to give them all my passwords to everything, but they get access to it without knowing what the password is. And they can't change the password unless they know the password. So I love it. LastPass is awesome. They're not a sponsor. It's just what I use every single day.
That's awesome. And I think that the more you delve into billing, the more you're going to interact. I mean, it would blow your mind how that multiplies out, how many portals, how many logins you're going to need, because everything needs to be HIPAA encrypted, right? Yeah. And in order for portals or passwords to be encrypted, there's just a lot of stuff, a lot of logins, a lot of tools that you need. So get LastPass for therapy notes, right? Your therapy notes login, your Availity login.
There's also an app that goes with it, which is nice on your phone, because so often it's like, you update and then you have to enter new passwords to everything, and then you can get it right there on your phone. 2 other things that I think are really good, and Jeremy, you can tell me if I'm wrong. If you're looking for 45-minute sessions or shorter, Zoom is encrypted end-to-end. You can also get the paid version, of course. They'll sign business associates agreements. And then a end-to-end encrypted texting service is Signal. And that's one that I know a lot of people will use as well. That's free to use.
Well, that's exactly right. And I think that those are great recommendations. And then I think the last one that I would throw out there as far as technology tools go would be a HIPAA compliant credit card processing system. So, and last I read, I know a lot of practices use Square. And I'm not sure if they're HIPAA encrypted, and I'm not sure because I have doubts about Square. It's just, I haven't looked into it. But like if you use therapy notes, they use a company called Card Connect, which is HIPAA encrypted or HIPAA compliant and encrypted. So all of that information is secure. And so that way you can process that payment information compliantly, because payment for healthcare services is considered protected health information. So you want to keep that in mind as well. So find a system that you can process payments in a compliant, encrypted way.
Yeah, and we'll look into that and try to put it in the show notes whether or not Square is. I know they take HSAs, and that you have to
Oh,
specifically say you're a medical provider in
oh,
order to get that feature. So
and they must
I
be.
think they are encrypted, but we'll verify that and put it into the show notes as well for this.
Yeah.
Well, we tore through a lot of tech in a short period of time. Well done, sir.
All right. Sounds good.
Tomorrow we're doing, for the next podcast, we're doing your billing plan. And so we're going to try to bring all of this together, give you step-by-step instructions as to kind of how to start to bring together your billing plan. And just a couple quick announcements. On November 6th, 2019 at 3 o'clock Eastern, 2 Central, 1 Mountain, and noon Pacific, we have our billing webinar. Jeremy and I are going to be chatting it up even more in depth than this on just what do you need to know about billing, get your questions answered so that you really know, like, what do you do in regards to credentialing, billing, insurance? This is stuff we didn't learn in grad school. And if you're starting the credentialing process and you want a consultant to help you with that, if you want to do DIY billing, or if you have an assistant that you want trained by Jeremy to do your billing, or if you're a much larger organization that wants a top to bottom evaluation and save a bunch of time and money, you want to connect with Jeremy. Head on over to practiceofthepractice.com/Jeremy, and you can schedule a free consulting session with him to just chat about what you should do next and see if consulting might be a good fit to give you a good ROI on that time with him. So tomorrow we're going to dive in. Talk to you soon, Jeremy.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe.